Welcome to Roadcase, the podcast that explores the live music experience. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Josh Rosenberg, and I'll be taking you on a journey through in-depth interviews with performers and key people in the industry to explore the magic of live music, how it can be totally transformative for both fans and performers, and we'll look at how they take it all out on the road. It's going to be a great ride, so here we go. Okay, welcome back to Roadcase. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Josh Rosenberg, and we got a great episode today, and I want to thank everyone for being here, and thanks to all of you for your continued support of Roadcase. And if you'd like to support Roadcase and don't know how to do that, there's a couple ways you can do that. One is joining the party over at patreon.com, which is a site where kind listeners can support this podcast in various ways, and you can find that on patreon.com/roadcasepod. If you can't do that, you can also rate and review this podcast. That also helps this podcast develop a level of notoriety or kind of recognition on the podcast platforms. That's something that's free of charge to you and really easy to do. So that would be really helpful. If you'd like to find out more about Roadcase, you can follow us on the socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Roadcase Pod. And we also have a YouTube channel called Roadcase Podcast. And of course, if you'd like to shoot me an email, I love getting emails. Thanks for all of those. Send me a suggestion, comments, yell at me, whatever you'd like. And that's info@roadcasepod.com. So thanks in advance for that. And I really appreciate everyone that's part of this awesome Roadcase podcast community. And today we have a great episode with Trae Vedder. Trae is a talent buyer for Sixthman, which is a festival and music cruise organizer. You might know them from some of the cruises that they do, such as Rockboat, Kayamo Cruise, Kiss Cruise, and Outlaw Cruise, among others. This is when you can just get on a boat and have a vacation on the water in these really cool cruise boats and have a concert experience where you can really kind of get up close and personal with some of your favorite acts. And generally they've got, in addition to headliners, they have almost like up to 45 bands, according to Trae, on some cruises. So there's just music that's constantly happening. And I think their motto, and what I like about it, is that their motto is, roughly paraphrased, tearing down the walls between bands and fans. So it's not an inexpensive type of vacation. You got to lay down a couple bucks for something like that, but it's certainly worth it if you're a super fan of a particular act and want to, potentially get in front of them much closer than you would at an ordinary venue. And they apparently stay on the cruise for a while with other acts, and they curate the whole bill with varying artists, and it just seems like a really great time for that. I have not been on a cruise personally. I went on a festival once, or a hotel stay once with My Morning Jacket down in the Dominican Republic and also in Mexico. And those are just a ton of fun to be with a bunch of different your fellow super fans together in a vacation environment. So same kind of applies for a cruise, and we'll hear all about that, what it takes to bring acts to cruises and what happens on the boat and what kind of interaction you can have with artists. And it's interesting to get kind of the inside scoop on that from Trae. Obviously, it's been affected by COVID, of course. Everything's kind of been shut down for now. They had 7 cruises on the books when the show shutdown hit, so they had to cancel those. And hopefully and possibly they're going to be going off with cruises in October and November of 2021, so that would be great. But during COVID, they kind of pivoted and did some streaming shows under the Sixthman name, and did some other kind of commemorative shows entitled The Rock Boat or Kayamo, which featured a lot of the artists that would generally join the cruise for those particular events. So, they did their best to kind of get in front of the fans and do all that kind of stuff during COVID. So I applaud them for that. But it's been a difficult year for the cruise industry, both kind of being at the nexus of travel and of shows, two industries that have been really, really negatively hard hit. So we'll learn a lot about this industry, what Trae does, what it looks like on a cruise boat from a fan perspective too, which is really cool, and some of the fun stories that occur with artists and fans and some of the unique experiences. So I know you'll find this this interview really interesting. Trae's a really affable and fun person to talk to. I really enjoyed the interview. So I want to thank all of you for joining me for this episode of Roadcase. Thanks again to Trae Vedder for being here. And here we go. Trae, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I am doing fantastic, Josh. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. That's great, man. Thanks for joining me. So we were talking before. You're coming at me from Atlanta. Did you actually tell me the look? What's the exact, like, downtown, outskirts? Where are you in this world?
I'm coming live from the Vedder household here in Southwest Atlanta.
Oh, okay. I've actually. I need to visit Atlanta. I am remiss in not having been down there. So
beautiful town. Have left a couple of times and always come back. Georgia is definitely home for me.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that's kind of where you were. You're Georgia. You're a Georgia boy.
Yeah, born and raised middle Georgia, down near Macon. Lots of Allman Brothers sorts of heritage and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, did a stint in Nashville, stint in New York, and always landed back in Georgia.
Are you an Allman's fan?
Yeah, very much so. I think
so.
That's
Tedeschi Trucks fan. They just kind of announced the streaming thing that they're going to be doing every week starting February 18th.
I saw that, but I haven't read all the details. But I love it, and Dave Scruggs over at Sixthman sent it to me, a fellow Allman Brother aficionado.
Yeah.
Those will be great. Yeah, I think I saw Derek Trucks the first time at the Georgia Rib Company in Gray, Georgia. He was 15 years old.
Wow. Like a bar show or that Georgia Rib, like it's like a restaurant with like music.
Not even there anymore, but yeah, just a back patio of the.
Holy
of the
shit!
Rib
Did
Company.
you know that it was Derek Trucks of
Knew it was friends and family of the Allmans. And that's really about it. Went with my mom and dad and family.
Wait, what was it called again?
It was the Georgia Rib Company, I think, and I don't think it's there anymore. But they built like this beautiful cabin, and it was it's a fully functioning barbecue restaurant in Gray, Georgia. And I just remember Derek Trucks. I remember his old bass player that I think plays with. God, I can't think of who he plays with.
Tim Lefevre? No, maybe older than Tim.
I think so. He's always got the cigarette dangling out of his mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. They've had a couple different bass players. I only go back like two bass players with TTP.
He played on the boat with us, and it was God, what is the artist out of Jacksonville, Florida, or Gainesville, Florida?
Tom Petty.
Yeah, not Tom Petty. It'll come to me after the fact.
Okay. So you're here with me because you organize festivals, and primarily what I've seen is like a ton of cruises with Sixthman. Why don't you explain a little what Sixthman kind of is, big picture, because I'm sure you can do a better job than I can, hopefully.
I'll do my best and stumble along through it. But Sixthman, for like a general overview of it, we put on festivals, music festivals, entertainment festivals on cruise ships and at resorts. Everything is vacation based, but the whole premise is tearing down the walls between bands and fans. It started somewheres about 20 years ago. Andy Levine started the company with a band called Sister Hazel, and they were kind of looking for a way to give back to. It was grassroots radio sort of campaign back in the 90s. So they were looking for a way to give back to fans. He ended up beside a travel agent on an airplane, and they did a partial charter of a cruise ship where they just invited all of their fans who had been, calling into radio stations over the years. So it started as that celebration, and then it kind of turned into They didn't make any money, but they made a lot of friends and got a lot of closer with their fans and recognized that they were onto something special. And 20 years later, we put on, 15 to 20 events a year. And I couldn't be happier to be a part of the family there.
Wow. So Alan Levine, you said.
Andy Levine. Yeah.
Andy, sorry. I was writing that down. I was like, what was his name? Andy Levine. So he went directly from thinking it's a great idea to get these, get fans and music in front of fans to like, let's do this on the water, like directly to the water. It was,
I think,
wow.
Whatever travel agent he was in touch with was obviously close with the cruise industry. And so a partial charter, a group charter, as they would call it at this point, I guess, is kind of what was conceived, and it just kind of grew from there into taking over an entire ship. So typically our festivals are around 2,000 to 2,500 people, depending on how many cram into a cabin. But we like to think that it's a super fan experience. It's an intimate sort of festival experience where you can really be close to the artist, and it's also something that usually there's as few as 15 bands, but sometimes as many as 40, 45 acts on a cruise. But
wow.
But you come for the headliners and you discover your next favorite band, and that's something that I think is very enjoyable for the people that vacation with us, and something that definitely hits home with me in the heart of music and why I love it, and that's why I've always loved being a part of this family.
Yeah. Do you have to like a cruise? Like, how do you get people over the hump to like say, we're going to do a cruise? Is this often people's first cruise? Do they get dragged by friends, or kind of what sort of profile of person and customer and client do you see?
Yeah, the community aspect I think is a big one. We hope that it's a music company, but it's also a hospitality company. We're asking them to spend a lot and put forth what they save for their vacation to spend it with us. So it's one of those that at some point they make best friends on board. If you're cruising with us, typically you make best friends, and at some point the friendships kind of transcend the music, or they kind of just blend together into one. And it's a big thing for us to have repeat customers. So most of our guests, most of our communities are coming back year after year. They're earning different. There's different levels of gifts
that's cool.
that they're receiving in their cabins. If they're at a 5-year mark, a 10-year mark, that sort of thing. We try to reward the artists with the same thing on the, if they've been a part. Repeat artists is a big thing for us too. If
I saw a picture of you gave away guitars or something to people that have been like multiple repeat guests for like years.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I think that was there's a handful of folks who have been on the rock boat all 20 times that it's happened. So they've they spent 20 years of vacations with us, and that's a pretty special thing.
Yeah, is that your longest standing cruise?
Yeah, so it all started with a rock boat, and then along the way there's an event conceived with Leonard Skinner, the Simple Man Cruise. Started out as Give Me 3 Days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Along from there came Kayamo, which is our festival that kind of rallies around folk roots and Americana.
Yeah.
You'll see acts like the wonderful John Prine.
Yes.
Props up to him in the sky. But acts like that and Jason Isbell, that sort of thing, that's kind of the bread and butter of Kayamo. And then we've partnered with, like you said, the Kiss Cruise is one that we've done. It's going into its, we're approaching 10 years of the Kiss Cruise, I believe. And then we do things with Kesha. We've done all sorts of things. We do a wrestling cruise with Chris Jericho. That's kind of the rock and wrestling cruise.
Let's talk. Fuck music. Let's talk about the wrestling cruise.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Well, I think what's cool about this job is there's so many things that bleed in from your adolescence. That there's so many. I always say that at Sixthman, every day I do something that I never would have thought imaginable, and being on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean with not only Chris Jericho, but also, Jake the Snake, DDP, Ric Flair. Never would have thought that. Like if you circle back to like 12, 13-year-old Trae, that's quite an experience to meet Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, and be working with those guys.
I'll take your word for it, man. Wow. So how do you, so tell me, how long have you been with this company?
I've been with Sixthman since the end of 2014. Stepped right out of a 15-passenger van, doing the grassroots touring from the artist side, and finished a tour on a Sunday, started at Sixthman on a Monday, and been running with them ever since.
Oh, so you were what were you doing with the artist? Tour managing or just driving the van?
I've done some tour managing in the past. I was at this point for the better part of 6 to 7 years was fronting a band called Death on Two Wheels. Southern flavored, but kind of punk rock mentality, sort of rock and roll band.
Right. So you were the singer in that band, right? Singer, guitarist, or what would you do?
Yeah. Was writing and singing from the band.
So you'd had enough, and you're like, I'm gonna bring artists to cruises now. Like you just like you're like I need more of a steady job. Was that the thinking?
That was definitely. I mean, I think if you've ever had a guitar in your hands and been in a band, then likely there's a part of your heart that's never through with that, and I think that's certainly the case for me. But you have to know when to hit pause and enter the next phase of your life if you haven't if that mountain has become a plateau. So yeah, it was the right time to hit pause on that portion of the music career and step into a different part of it. And Death on Two Wheels had, like I said, I've always been from Atlanta, which gratefully that's where Sixthman is based. We had played the Rock Boat in 2011, so I'd always stayed close with several friends there. Daniel Clower, Jessica Granger, Natalie, several of the people that were there are there. And so I stayed close with those guys, and it just kind of made sense. The timing fit, and I jumped on. Started in artist relations, and have since moved over to talent buying. But it's been a great experience so far. Yeah.
Well, you have that great personality. I can just tell that you're like, people love you at your job, and you're just like happy, outgoing person,
Some days probably more than others, but
well, maybe you're putting on a good face today.
But a shout out to the rest of the family there at Sixthman for sure. It's a kick-ass place to be, and I don't know. We get to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of weird, kooky, strange things with a lot of great musicians. So I'm grateful to be here.
Well, I got a ton of questions about like cruise logistics and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, let's get right into it. Like, there's no cruises going on right now. This is a COVID period. Like, give me your like, how have you guys been handling that? And how's it hit you? And wow, like all that.
Yeah. That's not a big question at all.
No,
No, I think it's again hitting on the grateful chord. It's I'm happy to be on having this conversation with you, still employed by Sixthman. We've had our fair share of bumps and bruises through the pandemic, but all things considered, for most of the industry and musicians, we have had it better than most. And I'm thankful to the Sixthman team and our parent company, which is Norwegian Cruise Line. They've kept us afloat and kept confidence in us. So it's been a trying time for the pandemic, but I've also been. Sixthman has always been a place that if you're doing music festivals on cruise ships and you're out in the middle of this ocean, you have to be resilient. You have to endure and find solutions to things you never thought were going to be in front of you anyway. So I think this has been the biggest curveball I've seen yet.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But
I think a lot of people are saying that these days.
Yeah. But it's been really cool to see our resilience and creativity kind of amplify throughout this time. So it's we can dive into all of it, but it's been our fair share of turning talent buyer into content producer and live streaming and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good pivot for sure, and makes a lot of sense. So, and we'll get into that. What's for Sixthman? Why don't you tell me exactly what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a talent buyer. That basically, we're looking at the events and building them from the ground up for the lineup. So again, it's looking at who the headliners will be, and all the way down to the bottom, looking at who the discovery acts will be, how those two correlate, and building everything in between. Something that's all encompassing for the guests that are paying to come aboard, that we we think not only will they see some things that they love, but also discover some things that they're not aware of yet.
Yeah, how do you kind of build that from the bottom in terms of those bands that you think are like the new discovery kind of bands? Like, are you trying to get into the head of the people? Like, you look at the headliner act, I assume, and you're like, oh, well, what are those people liking and what are they listening to? Like, where do you start? What's your thought process on getting the acts that are kind of built around that the headliner?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of that is being close with. We do a great job of building really close relationships with each of the artists that have been on the boats over the years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the artists themselves, as well as, managers, agents, PR, and that sort of thing. So I think I rely on those teams to bring us new acts that, maybe it's somebody that's opening for Andrew McMahon on tour, or opened for him in the past few years, or somebody that maybe they're writing with or producing.
Yeah.
Looking at different things. Sometimes it's looking at what Sister Hazel and their kids are listening to. Sometimes it's what my boss Anthony and his family are listening to, and then obviously I just love music. So it's one of those things that I'm always all ears. I want to hear. It doesn't mean that I can get everybody to a lineup on board, but it's certainly something that I always want to hear new music. So it's stay in touch with the tastemaker sort of things, and doing my best
Yeah.
to never become a gatekeeper, but always be open eared and open to the possibility of an act coming aboard.
Well, I mean, you kind of are a gatekeeper, right? I mean, not in the bad sense. I mean, you get to bring acts and introduce them to the possibility of being on here, unbeknownst to them or not. Right?
I'll never agree to being a gatekeeper. I like to focus on the
Yeah,
opportunity we're giving the other acts.
It has negative connotations for sure, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Um, so how when you have like these bands, how much interaction do you do with the opening act? I mean, you talked about or with the main act. So you were talking about that angle. Is that something where they'll maybe give you a couple names, and is it kind of based on availability, or sometimes you're just like, maybe not? And give me an example of what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, all of the above. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
Buddy Miller is a great example. He's not only artist, but he's producer and songwriter. He's got years of legendary and respected status.
Mm-hmm.
He has a great wealth of fans on his own, but he's also the musician's musician. So like he's always done a great job of recommending burgeoning sort of acts that have come into the Kayama family, and it's interesting to see what those are and to think about them even a couple of years down the road. Like Maren Morris was somebody that none of us were aware of, but Buddy Miller introduced us to.
Yeah.
Has gone on to do great things. Nikki Lane first came aboard thanks to a nod from Buddy. I love working with acts where like Andrew McMahon mentioned Kevin Devine, who is not only a great artist but an old friend, and was wonderful to have Kevin aboard the rock boat as well. So it can be a handful of different things, or it's a lot of times it's for discovery. We have a few contests and that sort of thing where sound check is I get just like gatekeeper. I hate competition as a phrase, but it's an opportunity for acts to find themselves aboard and for their fans to vote them on. So sometimes we're discovering acts like that. It's sometimes it's Stephen Kellogg had an artist that was playing guitar with him. That band turned into Welshly Arms, and we've had Sam Getz and Welshly Arms on for a number of years. So it's kind of seeing those artists kind of rise up to the ranks from the bottom through the middle to the top of the lineup. Those are just a handful of examples.
Well, and how does being on a cruise add or subtract? You're not going to talk about subtract, but like, how does it add to the environment and to the music and in itself? I mean, how is that? I mean, apart from the fact that you're on the water, and you're not going anywhere. I mean, how is that sort of add to the atmosphere, and how does it make it a better experience?
Yeah, I think I'll take both parts of the question.
All right, right on.
Yeah. I think what's beautiful about our boats is the guests are such a passionate fan base, and there's I hate for it to be there, but the paywall kind of it's an expensive vacation, so it caters to a super fan who's either got the money to do it or is saving and making a commitment to be there and experience this with their favorite artist. What I think is great is that they find an audience that follows them around their tours. It's not just the rock. If we announce an artist to the Rock Boat for the first time, likely if we were in a normal world where bands are touring,
Yeah.
as soon as that band's announced, they're gonna see people coming out to their shows and asking them about the Rock Boat for the next 9 months until they're on board. They're gonna see them at we've had from Rock Boat and Kayama, we've had we've had artists that have booked entire weeks of home show tours and that sort of thing. So what I think is great is that you get a passionate fan base that is either seeing you for the 5,000th time or for the first time, and either way they're going to be a lifelong fan or continue to be a lifelong fan and invest in those artists' careers. So that's what I think is special about it. I think sometimes it can be tricky, hitting on the other portion of your question. Some artists like to cruise, some artists don't. I think I wouldn't have considered myself a cruise person. I think you mentioned you might feel the same way. It's sometimes it takes getting an artist out there once for them to see and understand what the experience is.
Yeah.
And for others, it's not. So that's also extended part of our business where we've pivoted and expanded into resort-based vacations where, it gives us an opportunity to reach out to those artists, who are not big fans of being on boats for whatever reason it may be, and to offer different festival opportunities for them to do that. So we're excited about the future of the resort festivals as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like a dry land resort sort of situation, a vacation thing in like Mexico and Dominican Republic at resorts like Hard Rock, for example. So, I mean, it's not on the water, but it's similar, and you guys do those too, right?
Yeah, same thing. We've done a few of those over the past couple of years, and we'll continue to expand that portion of Sixthman over the years to come. Same thing. You find people that. It's as subjective as music and genres itself.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't like cruises, but I don't like resorts either. I want to discover something local. But I think, again, it's hitting on, you're coming there for the music. And for that experience, the vacation is certainly a big added bonus. And we've done our fair share of legwork to create a foundation where, you're stopping at ports and getting to enjoy some of that cultural sort of aspect. Same thing in the resort. You're free to leave the resort and experience, those local cultural elements.
Right. I mean, we were talking before about how you decide on what sort of sectors or types of music you choose, but that's something that's grown over the years, right? I mean, you started out, why don't you talk about how that progressed and how did you come up with like the second sector and then the third sector? Now you've got all like 17 different like things, flavors of music I didn't even know existed, frankly.
Well, I think it's like anything in the music business, for better or worse. I think it starts with the relationships that you have. So that's where a lot of that kind of conceived, and it's hard for me to speak on a lot of the past history when I've only been there since 2014. But I know that based on the Rock Boat starting, there was a relationship with specific different managers and different management companies that kind of opened up the inroads to create different events and different genres. So that's always a way that a future can kind of present itself for different events. For Chris Jericho is a great example. In 2015, he played the Kiss Cruise with his rock and roll band called Fozzy. I remember walked across the gangway with Chris Jericho onto the boat, and as soon as he saw the pool deck stage, he was like, "Oh, you can see it in his eyes. There was like a wrestling ring sitting in his eyes." He was like, "We are going to do a wrestling cruise. I can feel it. I know it. Tell me who to talk to. Let's make this happen." So that's another way. Is just the artist coming on board and kind of realizing he wanted to do something for his fans. He wanted to rally around the community of wrestling, and it's the Rock and Wrestling Ranger. He merges all those different sort of aspects of his life. From podcast to wrestling to paranormal to music. So that's another way that they can kind of be created. I don't know. That's a couple of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's an intimate environment, right? I mean, it's not. It seemed like it's not like the Queen Mary, right? I mean, these are like. These are mid-sized ships. It looked like, it's not a huge stadium where you're really far away. You're you can get pretty close to your favorite act if right. If you
exactly. Well, I think what's great about it is there's multiple different stages on the boat. So the pool deck is kind of the main stage, and that's kind of where that's where you can meet one another and all see a show together. And like I said, that's around 2,000 capacity. Everybody can see a show out there. Um, so I think that's super special. And we've tried bigger boats, but that always, 6-man buzzwords and internal phrases. That's kind of the huggable number where we feel like we can really treat that many people to
Is
an
what?
intimate
What's the
sort of
number?
experience. 2,000, 2,500 in that sort of space.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not to say we couldn't grow it a little bit or do, we're experimenting with smaller events as well. But that's always been a really great number where you feel like even on the pool deck and everybody there, you all feel like you're there together. And then, you've got.
Is it always the same? Sorry, is it always the same boat? The actual same ship?
So we've got, I'd say for the most part, yes. We've got the Norwegian Pearl and the Norwegian Jade that are typically the boats that we're on.
Oh, okay.
And there's a couple of other ones that we cycle to from time to time. But those are both set up and great for charter cruises.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How do you get the artist on to you like they helicopter in and they helicopter off at some point, or they wait until you pull into a port, or how's that work? They submarine out, or you just shoot them in a torpedo, or what do you do?
No, they're there for the entire event.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they're there on board, and there's a handful of circumstances where we've had bands come on in the middle or come on and off throughout different things.
Right.
Like John Bon Jovi went on and off the boat between his shows, but for the most part, all the artists are there. They're spending a vacation with you as well.
Right.
Those are some of my favorite times. Is bumping into Jim Lauderdale or Sean Mullins in the buffet, and not only myself having conversations, but watching fans have conversations with them, enjoying breakfast together.
So these are artists that fans are like super fans of and touring artists, and they're like hanging out and doing a cruise with you, and they're not getting hassled all the time, and like these guys love it and they're cool with that. I mean, it seems like they wouldn't get a lot of alone time except if they're locked in the cabin, frankly.
I think we've done our best to provide a great experience for the guest and a great experience for the artist. I think we try to super serve both. And find the right avenues for them to mix and mingle when it's necessary, and and for the artist to be able to find a place to find some peace and quiet when they need to as well. So it's I think for the most part, the artists do a great part of staying out there, mingling out and about with the guests. And I have to speak on all of our guests. It's there's a camaraderie there, a sense of respect there. For the most part, I'm not saying there hasn't been issues here, there, and wherever, but for the most part,
that's what I want to hear about.
No, but for the most part, everyone's super respectful, and And I don't know. It's interesting. Kiss brings aboard a bunch of bands that they love, and we'll send out a security team with Kiss, but they're in the club room seeing some of the bands that they want to see, seeing a comedian that they want to see, that sort of thing.
Right. But you can't go and like assail Gene Simmons or something in the middle of that show. Right?
We'd prefer that you don't.
Right. So how many cruises did you have to cancel? Like you had to cancel obviously the entire 2020 schedule up till now. I mean, that was like a huge number of how many different cruises. God.
So we usually kind of operate in a couple of different seasons throughout the year, and I'll say we were fortunate that between January and March, we were able to get in 7 events at the top of 2020. And I'm grateful for that. They were wonderful, wonderful cruises. Looking back, it feels like it was a decade ago. And then, we canceled our summer season was going to be in the Mediterranean. And then our fall season was back out in the Caribbean. So I don't know, for all intents and purposes, let's call it 7 to 10 events, something like that. That have been postponed or canceled or moved to a later date, that sort of thing.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a huge amount. I mean, that's certainly significant for you guys, but I was thinking like way more than that. But
we got in about half the season, and I'd say about half of it was
because a lot goes on in the winter months because it's like Caribbean stuff and people want to get warm.
Exactly. October, November are big for us. January through April are big for us. But again, thankfully we were able to get in 7 events before the world shut down.
Yeah, and what's your outlook for like when's the first cruise that's supposed to go off?
Yeah, we've got events currently scheduled for fall of 21. So we remain hopeful that we can get out there and put on a safe event for everyone. We won't return into the water until it's safe to do so. We're leaning on Norwegian for their expertise as well as the CDC. And when the government's ready for boats to get back out there and do so safely from U.S. ports, we'll get back out there and celebrate with our fans. But right now, that looks to be November of 2021, October, November of 2021, and then we would come back with another season of events in early
Right.
spring of 22.
October, November. So that's a bunch of different, a couple different cruises at that time, and then you take a break over those winter months.
Yeah, so it's good for us to do them in chunks. It's affordable for us to do them in blocks. So it's a couple of the events going out are the Brock boat going into its 21st year. Coheed and Cambria is curating a cruise. Kesha is going back out. Melissa Etheridge, Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager. That's a handful of the ones that are going out in October, November of 21.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope that happens. But
Exactly.
in the meantime, you guys have done this streaming session. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's at this point it's not any more creative than anyone else, but it's what keeps us in touch with our community of artists, community of guests. And so we've done over 150 artists as part of our Mikasa Sukasa live stream series. Essentially it's artists streaming live from their home. They're kind of mini sets, and they're speaking with the guest in the audience through the comments, acknowledging
Right.
some of those, taking some song requests, and sharing boat memories and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and so you're taking talent that you guys that you know from the cruises primarily, and then kind of marketing that through like, hey, these guys were on this cruise, come check out this stream.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, and then a lot of music discovery. So acts that have not. It all kind of falls under the Sixthman Sessions umbrella, which we've always utilized as a way to expose people to new artists, whether they've been on the boat or not been on the boat. So a lot of them have been cruise artists, a lot of them have been resort artists, but a lot of them are brand new to the Sixthman family as well. Whoever's, we try to keep our pulse on who's releasing new music and helping support their albums.
Right. That's interesting. And you did artist relations prior to taking on this role as talent buyer. Like how, like it seems like talent buyer, you're still relating with artists, right? So how is that different than what? That includes a lot of elements of what you were doing before. It seems like everything that you're doing is artist relations. So why don't you, how is that different?
My default pun is you can't spell talent buyer without a little AR.
There you go.
So I think that's always going to be the heart of, like I said, I'm a grassroots, up and coming punk rock sort of ethos. So I'm always going to be in the trenches with artists on the come up.
Yeah,
I think that speaks to where I come from with artist relations, and I try to bring that sort of artist first approach to talent buying as well. So I think while that's no longer my title, it's I'm focused into bringing the artist experience for the fans aboard our ships in a different sort of element. But the two kind of go hand in hand, and I work super close with Tanner Smith as our other talent buyer. Andy Kahn is our artist relations. That team is super close as a trio, and so it's you're not wrong. It's one and the same a lot of days.
right. So if you're on a cruise, and how many acts do you typically have underneath the main act?
Yeah, so say something like Paramore does a cruise, and they keep the lineup a little bit smaller. It's somewhere in the 10 artist range.
Right.
They like utilizing that big pool deck stage and everybody enjoying things there. Something like Kayamo or the Outlaw cruise last year. Jeremy Tepper, I love working with him. We had 45 artists on the bill, I believe.
Uh-huh.
So that's the largest lineup that I think ever has been promoted as far as
45 acts.
Yeah.
Wow. And you keep those on the cruise the whole time? Was there enough room for other guests on the?
Well, a handful of those are if Shooter Jennings is aboard, then we're his bassist Ted Russell Camp is doing his own set, and we're putting both of them out there on the lineup. So some of that is is a
There's some
collective
overlap.
sort of,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And the Outlaw Cruise is also, I love what falls under the umbrella of Outlaw. You know, it was it was from the Waco brothers to Dale Watson to, we had Lee Scratch Perry and Chris Christopherson all in the same lineup. It's a beautiful
Right.
melting
Wow.
pot.
Yeah, and so no, I was interested in just like how many actual artists are on the ship at the same time. Can I call it a boat? Sorry, how are on the boat at the same time.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
just like it's like a super like it seems. I mean, there are 2,500 people there, so I don't know if you're crossing paths with people all the time, but there's a lot of opportunity for interactions with artists, especially with so many different artists that's remain on the boat during these cruises, which are what, like 5 to 7 days long or shorter than that,
exactly.
or
So the cruises are as few as 3 days, typically 4 to 5 days, as many as 7 days. So there's a great variety of those out there. But yeah, let's call it most of the lineups 25 acts and 5 people per band. So you're talking 100 plus artists on board at all times for the most part.
yeah, interesting. Um, so coming back to like COVID and post-COVID, like how are you seeing that happening in a cruise where people are just so close to one another? Like in venues, obviously there's going to be a socially distant element and a reduced capacity kind of element. How do you see that? Is that going to play out analogously on cruises? Are you going to can you even operate with reduced capacity? And is that something you've even thought about?
Our team, I'm grateful to be a part of a team big enough that that does not fall under my scope, my umbrella. Um, there's an operations team that is seeking all of those answers, and I think it is very hard for us to operate in a scaled down sort of what we do in general is intimate. So it's hard to work in a scaled down capacity. It remains to be seen if we could do so or how we would do so. And as far as the regulations and what will happen with cruise ships, I'd love to discuss it, but I feel like that's a whole nother podcast, and I'd certainly be speculating. So it's up to me, I think, to be I'm optimist to pessimist one day to the next. It's a roller coaster, but today I'll keep my Captain Positive hat on, and hopefully we're out there safely sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay. So, as far as cruises are coming back in October, November timeframe. I hope that is the case.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for late 21 and excited about 22, which I think is kind of the general consensus for music industry in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, man, when everything came crashing down and like there were a bunch of naysayers saying, "Oh, well, we won't be at shows until 2022." I was like, "Fuck you." Now it's like that's actual possibility, but I hope not. It just occurred to me that socially distant, you can only go so far away from somebody else on a cruise ship, but
right.
we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I'd say hopefully it works for the better. Hopefully, it works for the better for you guys.
I appreciate that, and it's an interesting problem to solve. It remains to be seen exactly how we'll do it, but I'm looking forward to getting back out there and having some good moments with everybody.
No, there's no question, man. Totally. In terms of artist relation and like being on the boat, like what's like one of your favorite moments that has occurred with an act that everyone would know about?
Oh man, I think there's so many different things. Last year aboard Keamo, I was privileged enough to Steve Poltz as a singer-songwriter, wonderful person. He got married on the cruise in front of the Keamo audience. It was also a wonderful collaboration show. It's pretty cool for
That's cool.
for Sean Watkins and Sarah Watkins and the Mastersons and Molly Tuttle to all play at your wedding. I was fortunate enough to walk Sharon down the aisle. It's a wonderful experience.
Oh, wow.
I think Keamo and all the best are always up there at the top for me. Getting to work with John Prine and his family was super special. I think I don't have one with me now, but we created these bolo ties for all the best. We always try to do some sort of artist gift, but we were fortunate enough to have his son Tommy Prine intern for Sixthman for a little bit. And
oh, interesting. So all the best, I'm sorry, that's like the John Prine focused.
Yeah, all the best. which was November of 19, I think was our inaugural festival for that. But yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
created bolo ties for that, and working with Tommy to do something that he thought his dad would love and the artist would appreciate. I think it was beautiful. That was a special moment. I think it was the last year just before COVID, Carlene Carter was aboard the Outlaw Cruise, and we ended up going to Cinnamon Hill, Jamaica, while we were in port. So it's like a business day while you're in port, like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We went to Cinnamon Hill, and Johnny Cash and Carlene Carter's old vacation home is there, and it's almost frozen in time. And like there's still family pictures on the wall. There's still clothes in the closet.
Wow.
The whole staff came there, and they catered a breakfast for several of the artists, and you're just in this big great room of like an old plantation house that Johnny and June lived in. And so it was Carlene, it was Elizabeth Cook, it was Chris Christopherson, and like they played "Will the Circle Be Unbroken" kind of in the round there. That's always going to be tip top moment for that
Wow.
experience.
Was that a unique kind of situation, or is that something that you set up to have artists go off the boat and play somewhere on one of your port of calls?
Yeah, sometimes
Ports of call. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's there's a handful of things that sometimes we'll do with the artist, and it's a public experience. Sometimes they're private experiences. That was certainly one that Carlene had been on the boat. She had been aboard Kayama the year past, and we went through and toured the site and saw it and got to meet the staff there and kind of conceived the idea over the next year, and got to execute it on Outlaw the next year. So that's certainly the big, supporting grassroots artists through Sixthman Sessions is a big thing for me, and then creating really, really interesting artist collaborations and unique content that you can't experience anywhere else. That's a big passion of mine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can tell you guys are super devoted to creating those kind of experiences, and from what I've read, you guys have great relations with clients and want to do all this kind of stuff and are super committed. I mean, if you've got 50 other people that work at that company that are just like you, I mean, it's got to be an incredible experience. You're going to die trying. I can just tell you're that kind of guy.
Yeah, I do like the die trying mentality. I appreciate this.
Yeah. Are you in the jam band community a little bit? Is that like a sector that you guys have gotten into yet?
I will say that we have celebrated jam sorts of things on different boats. One of my favorite Kayama moments is our Grateful Dead celebration that several artists were a part of. Tom Hamilton of Joe Russo's was a part of that, but we do not. We do not produce the Jam Cruise. That's a different company.
Right. Yeah.
Great company, but we have not forayed into the jam world.
Okay. Is that like a sector you want to be in, or is this there's just?
I think that would be a great space to be in. It's keeping a diverse portfolio of events is certainly interesting. I think we'd love to do something in jam. We'd love to do something else in hard rock. I think we'd love to do something else that's maybe bluegrass oriented, and we've also introduced things like a Broadway event. So we're kind of looking into different forays of entertainment based cruises as well. But I think jam would go right along with that.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the how many different cruises are there now? Tell me that again.
In the Sixthman catalog, like I said, usually it's 15 to 20 per year.
15 to 20. So how do you decide, what's the growth strategy for Sixthman? It's just, we're going to do another cruise. What can you give a sense of what's in the works, or how are you, will that just continue to just snowball into more and more cruises, or will you add people to individual cruises and do bigger boats? I mean, what's kind of what are you looking at? What's a medium to long-term strategy there?
Yeah, a little bit of all of that. We over the pandemic, we introduced Sixthman Services, which is kind of a la carte. Gives other festivals access to all of our different teams. If you'd like us to provide guest services, if you'd like us to provide on-site services, if you'd like us to do the talent buying, if you'd like us to do production, that sort of thing. So services opens up a whole different set of income opportunities.
Yeah. So you've kind of like taken sectors of what Sixthman does and then kind of plug and play as a consulting service to other kind of festivals.
Yeah, yeah, because I think it's we're grateful to the artists that certain artists along the way have said we wish Sixthman would just manage our band. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So hopefully this offers the industry some sort of way to take advantage of the services that we have to offer. But we're
you
looking
said
at
you did that.
smaller events,
Sorry.
bigger events.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'll give you a chance to talk about that because I'm going to ask. But you said you were doing that during COVID, but there's no festivals to be done during COVID. Was that something that you're like, oh, well, where else could we possibly wait? But you're like, where can we grow into? Let's do festivals. Oh, wait, there's no festivals. But I mean, are you going to, sorry, are there kind of like you're going to expand the team and kind of do that going forward? And COVID gave you the idea to do that? How did that kind of pan out?
Yeah, so there's cruises like the Turner Classic Movies has a cruise, and while we do not have an onboard presence, we do the booking of the cabins. So they take care of they take advantage of our services team for all of their booking needs. There's things like the Moon Crush Festival is coming up in April, and while it's not a fully produced Sixthman event, we're certainly associated. So we're working with I like to call them our cousins at Topeka. Topeka.live, it's a COVID-safe event in Miramar Beach, Florida in April with Jason Isbell, Sheryl Crow, Grace Potter, the Revivalist, etc. So that's another where our team is currently booking the event, and they'll also utilize like some of our artist relations services and that sort of thing on site. So it's kind of an a la carte sort of thing. And so we are currently doing some of that, and that's expanded into live streaming and that sort of thing too.
What do you mean that has expanded into live streaming?
Like our guest services team, our marketing team will promote different sorts of events, and it's just been a way to utilize our team and keep them busy working on different sorts of projects that are bringing in income.
Huh, interesting. Tell me more about this Topeka thing. That's a land-based festival that's going on?
Yeah.
Is it in Topeka, Kansas?
Andy Levine stepped back in his roles at Sixthman and has become chairman, but he just launched Topeka, which is a live streaming service, and now is putting on the Moon Crush Festival, which kind of expanded from. He was throwing events at country clubs, kind of singer-songwriter things in the round. At country clubs, this is that amplified, I guess you would say, and so it's a COVID-safe event. It's called Moon Crush. So it's a kick-ass lineup. I think it's going to be a beautiful festival, and hopefully, it's something that we can pull off. It's an experiment, and I don't know. It's a way to see live music and do it safely. I think it's going to be something special.
Yeah, interesting. Well, and after your experience with Sixthman and doing online shows, do you ever, since obviously capacity is limited on cruises, have you ever in the past done live stream of cruise, the actual individual performances, or how does that work? Like afterwards, do you have a YouTube channel or stuff, or like how can you see content if you aren't able to go to the cruise?
Yeah, for sure. There is a handful of things on YouTube, and on sixthmansessions.com has a lot of those things cataloged. There's a lot of that's been archived but has not been put out there publicly. We've done a lot of virtual celebrations lately, where we're celebrating. We recently just celebrated the time that we were to have been at sea with the rock boat in 2021. So it's
oh, interesting. Oh, you did a little like memorial, not a memorial, but like
yeah. We're not together at sea, but we're together.
Yeah, like a bunch of festivals have done that too. Like whatever the Sweetwater thing down, and that's in Atlanta, right? They were like, oh well, this was going to be the weekend, but here's like My Morning Jacket from 2017 or something, right?
Exactly. I think a lot of festivals have done a great job at it. I think Newport Folk Festival has done some great content.
This kind of keeps people like juiced over like the stuff, everything, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I've become like a content king of hosting interviews and that sort of thing. Trying to do
cool.
things. Yeah. Trying to do artist interviews. Take a peek behind the scenes of what the artists have been doing. The same thing, catching up with people, just seeing how they're doing, whether they're on the guest or the artist side.
Where do you post? Where do you post those?
Those are on they're on Sixthman's Facebook and Sixthman socials, as well as, again, it's sixthmansessions.com is where a lot of that stuff gets cataloged.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of just saw like all the online shows, but I didn't notice that you were doing interviews with current interviews with the bands that would have been like on the Rock Cruise, for example, or the Outlaw Cruise or whatever during that time.
Yeah, so we've done like
you're just like the interview, like you'll say like, oh, don't you wish you were on the cruise now? And they're like, yeah, I wish I was. And then that's the content of the interview. Okay.
We call
it's
it
like,
it's
goddamn COVID.
Exactly. I think that's an everyday sentiment.
Right. And then you send a buffet like to their house, then you put a buffet out, and like then they feel all at home.
Exactly. That's it's Sixthman, so it's a 6-question series. But it's one where like we're sitting down.
Wait, a 6-question series? Wait, you snuck that in there. So you ask them 6 questions?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's cool.
And that takes maybe 15 minutes, maybe an hour or so.
Yeah.
Depending on the artist. So we've interviewed, artists like Lori McKenna, Zach Myers of Shinedown, caught up with Elizabeth Cook recently. Same thing as on the boat. Things you didn't think that you would ever do, but I was on Zoom through Facebook with Sister Hazel, Andrew McMahon, and Switchfoot in the past couple of weeks. So just things that we hosted a podcast with Taking Back Sunday, celebrating the Coheed cruise. So those sorts of various things where you're kind of doing the same thing that you and I are doing, but just checking in with the artist. Same thing. I think those were great. It's we did an interview with Bruce Kulick where it wasn't Kiss for a certain period in the Unmasked era that we had alluded to earlier. We did an interview with Bruce and allowed our guests to submit questions beforehand, so they get to be a part of the interview as well. There with Taking Back Sunday, we had guests pop up on screen live, so they're all kind of experiments. They're all just
no, I think that's a great idea. It's like anything you can do, and right. Doing the artist interviews, kind of like I was like, huh, what artist interviews? Because we do a lot of those on Roadcase. So that was really that sounds like a cool way to kind of pivot and create some content out of this whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
How much has the company contracted, like in terms of personnel? I mean, what does that look like?
Honest to goodness, like I said, we've had some bumps and bruises, but for all intents and purposes, we're about the same size and same operating capacity.
Wow, that's great, man. That's good.
Yeah, so things are looking up. It is good to hear. It's a great place to be, and like I said, we've, as much as we could dwell on, how bad it is currently, we are certainly eyes on the prize for the future, and that's looking 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road.
No, yeah, I appreciate your positivity. Have I been dwelling on it too much?
No, not at all. I think that's something that we're all susceptible to, is falling into that one day to the next.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're just questions I need to ask because I'm curious, and I'm sure other people are kind of curious, like what's going on with this business in particular, because it can be hit from so many different angles, right? From it's the travel thing. It's being on a cruise ship. I mean, I want shit to come back in any format, and I applaud all this great work that you do in bringing so many different types of genres together, man. I think that's really cool. I mean, it's tough times, but you seem to be making the best out of it. Everyone's gonna make their own lemonade and different varieties. Everyone's got a little bit of a different recipe. Sometimes it's a little sweeter. It depends how much sugar you add, right?
Yeah, I hear that.
And what's this the Mikasa Sukasa thing to come back? Is that part of the Sixthman series?
Yeah, so that's our live stream series. That's just kind of what we found it under. So that's part of Sixthman Sessions. The 6 questions goes right along with that, and we're looking to continue to expand the Sixthman Sessions brand and continue to do all sorts of different things under that umbrella. Some of that we do on board, some of it we do in the office, some of it we do offsite at other festivals and that sort of thing.
But that one in particular is where you have artists that are at their house. That's kind of the theme.
Yeah,
hence
yeah, and those
Mikasa,
are like mini
Sukasa.
sets. Yeah, exactly. So we asked them to, depending on the artist setup, it can be a cell phone and an acoustic guitar with no microphones. some of those more technologically inclined, it's a full band sort of stream. Um, and we enjoy both. We enjoy the toss of the dice, seeing what you're going to get from one day to the next. But
Do you?
yeah, yeah.
Does your audio engineer enjoy the toss of the dice?
No, it's all on the artist's shoulders. It's essentially we're handing them. It's essentially it's a Facebook takeover, and they're sharing 3 to 5 songs and chatting with the guests for a little bit.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good, man. Yeah. Remind me, where's the resort? The 2 or 3 different kinds of resort vacations that you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we've done those in the Dominican Republic so far. I think we'll look to expand to Mexico and beyond with those programs. Hopefully something stateside as well. But the Dominican Republic is where we've done those, and at a couple of different resorts down there.
And it's the same, like choose a musical genre theme, and it's kind of like, what genres were they?
Yeah, we did Kid Rock did his Chillin' the Most event down at the Hard Rock, and then John Prine's All the Best was there again in November of 2019 down in the Dominican as well.
Oh, that wasn't a cruise. Okay.
Yeah, that was in resort.
Oh, okay. At the Hard Rock in the Dominican Republic. Yeah.
That one, John Prine was God, it totally escapes me, but it was in Punta Cana, Dominican. I don't recall the name of the resort. Shame on me.
Punta Cana. Yeah. I did a thing with a vacation destination with My Morning Jacket down there in I forget what year, 2017 I think it was.
Yeah.
2018, I can't remember.
That's a kick-ass event that I've never gotten to do. Would love to do that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it compares. That's the only destination one that I've been to, but so who knows? I liked that's a huge resort. It was kind of a cool place to go to see a show for sure.
Yeah, where did that one happen? Do you recall the name?
That was a Hard Rock in Dominican Republic.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
one big holiday thing.
Yeah, that's where we did the Kid Rock one. It was great.
Oh yeah. It's a cool resort. Except I think that was the year they were supposed to be. There was massive winds during that time, and there was going to be some shows on the beach, but they had to bag it and just make everything at the main stage because of these winds that they couldn't do something. They couldn't set up the stage on the beach.
Yeah, for Hard Rock, we did a similar thing where it's the main stage was there in the courtyard, and we did some activities on the beach and like some campfire sort of jams, but never like a full stage.
No, they were going to set up a full stage for like a couple late night acts or something like that. Not the main act. I don't think Jacket was going to play on the beach, or maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, I'll say it's well worth it. We did that for the John Prine event, and it was, I don't know, to sit there watching Emmylou Harris with your ankles in the water is
I would totally love it. Fish does that thing where they do like all their sets on the beach, and there's people just jamming out in the water, waiting in the water. Wow. I mean, I would probably try to be like shoving myself up close to the stage, but still, I like watching the people jamming on the water. You know,
you were there. You know how it feels, and I think anybody that was at All the Best knows that was a time capsule that everybody will forever remember.
Oh yeah, totally. There's great memories, and it's I'm sure it's like that on cruises too. Like I haven't been able to like bring personal experiences into this conversation, but I mean in terms of like these kind of vacation things, I mean that one big holiday is I did 2 of them. There were 4, I believe, and incredible memories. Just to be around everybody whose favorite band is your favorite band, and you're all out for that same reason is just it's just fucking cool. I mean, you're kind of like, you got to think on your feet when stuff's happening, and what's like a thing that you remember where you just like, oh shit, this happened, and now I've got to do this when I was gonna do that.
Yeah, I think man, probably Kayamo. I don't recall what year it was, but I'd come up with this whole concept where we would take the artist off of the stage. The production guys hated me for it. I shout out to them. I love them because they made it happen. We took the artist off of the main stage. I wanted to do an artist in the round experience. I kind of wanted to bring the Bluebird to the pool deck sort of element. And so we set up, I think it was Steve Earle, Jim Lauderdale, and a couple of other singer-songwriters set up off of the stage in the middle of the pool deck for people to be around them 360 degrees. And same thing as, the wind started to whip up, the waves started to hit, and about, let's say 17 seconds into Steve Earle's first song, the rain started to come down. And so, again, a big shout out to, we call them Black Shirts. That's the whole 6-man production team. But Ethan Schwartz and everybody rallied around that. And we headed down to the atrium, myself, the production team, the artist, all of the guests. And within 30 minutes, we were up and at 'em again. And the show went long into the night. And we probably should, it sticks out in my mind more than the show might have in its original concept. But you got to,
right.
whether it's a land festival or out there on the ocean, you got to be prepared for the rain. And that was one of those.
Yeah. I mean, you're just so exposed to the elements when you're out in the water. But yeah, that's a definite curveball that you hit out of the park with the cooperation of everybody else trying to just move the whole operation down to another location, right?
Yeah, well, and props to all of the artists. That's one of those things that Steve Earle especially. I think he's always a great one. That's I recall a couple of stories where he's like, well, I mean, I just finished my show and Nikki Lane asked me to do something and Lucinda Williams asked me to do something. So if you don't mind walking with me down to their stage, if you can get me there, I think I can squeeze them both in.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
And so, yeah, you've got an artist within a half hour, he's popped up on 3 different stages with 3 different artists.
Yeah, some of the coolest stuff in live music happens when it's just an unexpected kind of event that all of a sudden just turns into something that's by definition super unique, but then ends up to be really cool. Like I saw Government Mule once up in Milwaukee at this smaller theater called the Pabst, which is a great venue, super intimate venue. And their drummer was super sick with food poisoning, not even the flu where you can kind of bring yourself to like work through it for 2 hours maybe,
right.
But he had food poisoning, man. He was laid out, so they did the show without a drummer, and it was fucking amazing.
Well, yeah,
each of the other guys filled in drums for like a couple songs. A roadie, a woman who they called Sticks. Like, I don't know if that was I don't know enough about the band to know whether that was like they were just pulling her leg for that particular show and calling her Sticks, or she was like, that's her actual nickname and she's a drummer. I'm assuming for purposes of this argument that she was a drummer because she filled in for like 4 or 5 songs. And Warren opened up the show, Warren Haynes, by saying, if you want your money back, you can have your money back. But in my experience, these shows that happen when there's like some kind of extraordinary situation that we can't control, these things happen and the show ends up to be like a really unique event. So if I were you, I could stick around. But if you don't want to stick around, you can go to the box office and get your money back. And it was an amazing show.
And nobody left. Yeah.
Nobody left.
I mean, what a stand-up dude, and I don't know, big Warren Haynes fan for certain. So
yeah, he opened the show with a beautiful acoustic version of "Wasted Time" by the Eagles.
Yeah, I think he did one of the pandemic virtual celebrations of John Prine after he passed, and I loved what Warren said. He said I've always wanted to perform a John Prine song, but thought it just was never necessary because who could do it? Justice. It's John's voice and John's way of playing guitar. It's such a special thing. But I don't know. Warren Haynes has never done a 6-man event, so much love to him out there. One day we will bring him into.
Well, that'll get me out on a cruise. So
yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah. Hopefully sooner than later. Well, this has been a pleasure, man. It was really good to meet you, just on a personal basis, and what you're doing is really cool. And I wish you the best with 6-man, and let's fucking get COVID out of the way and let's get back out there and doing these cool events, man.
Couldn't have said it better, man. I appreciate the time, Josh. It's a pleasure to meet you, and this has been wonderful. So thank you again for the time.
Hey, and good luck with the baby coming up in May, right? Is it May?
Yeah, little fellow
Awesome.
Vedder comes here in May, and I don't know. Hopefully we'll have a bigger family, and we'll get back out there on the water in 21 and 22.
That's great. Well, congratulations for that, and best of luck in going forward and coming up, man. Best of luck to everything.
I appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much.
Thanks for being here, dude. See ya. Okay, that was Trae Vedder on Roadcase, and as you heard, he's with Sixthman, and they organize festivals and a whole slew of different cruises in the Caribbean and elsewhere, providing experiences in live music and in possibly meeting a lot of your favorite artists. And it's a really interesting take on live music, be on a boat with possibly your favorite artist and other artists that Trae feels would be of interest to you, liking that headliner as well. So it's an interesting way to get exposed to new bands. I'm sure there's a lot of camaraderie that occurs. As I know, I've gone on a vacation oriented type of festival at a couple hard rock hotels, which was really fun. And when you're around others that love music, it becomes just a massive shared experience over the love of live music and the love of one particular band. And of course, you're able to see several different bands, but this is a area that's been particularly hard hit over COVID, and they began to provide music in streaming format to their clients and customers and former guests that are interested in hearing music from the artists that have previously participated in some of the cruises, which I think is a cool idea and a good way for Sixthman to stay in front of their guests, as good as any during this time. And Sixthman is, optimistically looking at October and November to get back on the water with their first cruise. And, I wish them luck. And, that's just everyone getting back to shows. And I know that myself and everybody else that loves live music is hoping that to be the case as well. So I hope you enjoyed that interview with Trae Vedder, Sixthman. I want to thank all of you for joining me for this episode of Roadcase, and I want to thank Trae again for being here on Roadcase. Thanks again so much for listening, and I'd like to encourage everyone to get involved with Roadcase. You can do so in a number of different ways. You can email me at info@roadcasepod.com with questions, comments, and even suggestions for guests. Or you can follow us on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're at RoadcasePod, and we have a YouTube channel called Roadcase Podcast. And if you are able to and like to support Roadcase, we have a Patreon site at patreon.com/RoadcasePod. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast on your favorite listening platform. And if you could please rate and review the podcast while you're there, that would be great. So I want to thank Walter for this awesome theme music that we have. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to Roadcase. We have a lot of great episodes coming up, so I'll see you on down the road.